BTC is still floating around 85K, but yesterday we had a bit of a dampener on the markets. Jerome Powell came out with some pretty hawkish things going on. So we're going to break that down today. We're going to look at the effect on the market that this could potentially be having for us. And then obviously we are dealing with this little altcoin pump that we've just seen now coming off supports from yesterday. So I hope you locked in some of those entries yesterday. We're now getting some trend breaks. Let's see if it's going to play out, guys. We've got lots to talk about here. Let's get right into it. Guys, and remember, as always, hit that like, hit the bell, and hit the subscribe. You can even do this.
Treat the like button like Michael Jackson. Just beat it.
James is here in the house. 𝗵𝗆𝗟 still, sir? 𝗵𝗆𝗟.
Well, okay, see, we got to switch throughout the day here, right? We get these little pumps up, then a dump, then a pump, and we just sit in the same range.
It all feels like a trick. Okay, but we're gonna discuss this. We're gonna discuss this in depth. Let's get right into banter bubbles. There is a shitcoin that I've asked Jay to keep us posted on. Okay, I'm gonna just leave that there. Trader Jay's in the chats today, and he's talking about this shitcoin here. Let's see if we're gonna get a breakout. We can maybe take this one live. Okay, here we go. Banter bubbles, mixed bag on paper, but I think if we look at our levels now, we've had a dip today, and then a lot of those levels that I gave you yesterday, 𝗬𝗰𝗵𝗏, Sonic as well. They'll be getting decent bounces. So nice little recovery at the moment. Can it continue? Look at 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, for example. That one is also breaking a little bit of trend for us. So we might get a move. And then Render here at the bottom. That's been one of my best performers today. That's really starting to push that trading account up for me. So things are looking good on that front. Small little recovery. Let's talk BTC. And we are still sitting in our very, very tight range in an area where it's almost anybody's guess as to what happens next, because we've got bulls, we got bears, the guys are teeing up the longs, the guys are teeing up the shorts, and everybody is waiting in anticipation now for the next big news event. What is the news going to be? Is China going to get sorted out? Is there going to be something else coming out of Trump's mouth? And we're getting into a situation where if you're tracking the liquidation heat map, it's actually looking a little bit scary if you are trading high leverage and you've bet in one direction. So it's times like these where these hedging accounts really come into play very nicely here, because it is right now looking like a complete gamble up and down. Look at this liquidity to the upside, 86.5, massive zone up to about 87.5, and then to the downside, look at this, they can come clean us out down to 81K without too much stress. And look how beautifully that all ties into this 2-hour chart that we're looking at the moment. So key levels for me to play ping pong. 85 or 86,500. You can see that region over there. That is a wick fill. So 86,500. Then we've got the big band that I've been talking about for a couple of days, and that is all the way up to 89K. This is a big one. It's our VWAP. It's our horizontals. It's our 200-day MA. We know this is a huge zone for us. So those are the big guys to the upside. Then downside, if we have a dip here, 81,800. 80,000 and 79K. These are the ping pong zones. If we do drop into that, look for a bounce. If we drop in here, look for a bounce there. And the same with that upside. We're going to look for some rejections in those zones. And Mia's not a big fan. She's not a big fan of ping pong. Well, that is basically what we've been playing here at the moment in the last couple of days. Now, let's get into some of the news. Let's see what are our numbers looking like. 200 million. It seems that 200 million is the base. Okay, so rookie numbers again. $200 million liquidated or liquidated in the last 24 hours. Yeah, rookie numbers still. And yes, the 𝗏𝗆𝗋𝗆 says gold is starting to break down. Guys, is it time to go for gold number 2? Okay, we've got our divergence. We're looking at that gold chart shortly. Right, let's go and let's see what's going on. I mean, who would have thought that it's possible now in America that you can flash people your clothes with the made in China badges on and basically be part of the elite, because it's getting so expensive now with this current trade war. Do you like that? Do you like that?
I do. I paid 400% for this bitch.
Only the wealthy are going to be buying their made in China clothes. Okay, so things are really hotting up there, and you can see the Chinese embassy basically trolling Uncle Donald at the moment, saying the
art of the deal. Okay, they're really absolutely taking the piss in the situation. And look, as an observer, it feels like Uncle Donald's a little bit on the back foot now to me. And I don't know what James' view is, but it seems like something needs to be done pretty soon. There's Jay in the chats. Okay, he's taking breakout trade party. Jay is look in the chats here, guys. Okay, he's saying party trade. What's our story here? Are we in this thing? Okay, so are we taking this low leverage candle hold above, full DJ, full fun? Okay, where's the stop loss here? What's the stop loss? Oh, there, 1414. Okay. Let's take this one. Let's go. Okay, let's take this thing. And we're going to take this one on Blowfin here. I'm going to go $4,000. Let's go buy long. There we go. Party. Are we going to party with party? And our stop loss is 1441. So let's add in our stop. So we just go to the bottom here, TPSL, and we're going to go 0.1441. 0.1441. Okay. There we go. Okay, Jay, locked and loaded, bro. Let's see if we get some action out of this little party trade. Okay, let's go. Let's get back into the news. Now, the big one, obviously. Oh, well, there's a couple of big things at the moment, but this was interesting. Zero Hedge dropping today, $2.6 trillion option expiration today. Now, that's quite large. Okay, now a big portion of that has already now expired this morning, 1.2 trillion in the morning, but there's a lot going on for the rest of the afternoon. But sometimes I just scroll through these things and I find some interesting comments. And there's a guy underneath here, is 𝗵𝗏𝗏 commenting, and he's talking about 2.6 trillion in options expiration. And he's saying trillion with a T, because who doesn't want to play financial Jenga with the entire market right before the weekend? Good point. And he says markets tanked 2%, Nasdaq 3%, Dow 1.7%. NVIDIA down after, he says, after Biden told them no chips for China. I think he meant Trump. But meanwhile, Powell took the mic and basically said, we're not doing anything because nothing screams leadership like standing still while the economy does backflips. Powell, the Fed's wait and see strategy is like it's like your kitchen catching fire and saying, let's wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our stance on using water. Okay, so things are hot out there. And this is basically how we're feeling at the moment after yesterday's comments, because we did drop into some great areas. We started pumping into Powell speaking, and then he came and he dropped the bomb on us here. And this was basically the full summary of what he had to say. And that's his thanks to me, Master, delivering it there for us. But the real version is basically the market has read this as the Fed put is not saving the market anytime soon. Now, what is the Fed put? And I've actually Googled this for you guys, okay? The Fed put is a term that describes a perceived expectation that the Fed will act as a buyer of last resort in times of the financial market distress, effectively providing a cushion against significant market declines. It's a belief that the Fed will take steps like lowering interest rates or implementing QE to support the economy. And basically yesterday, he said it's not going to be happening. So that is why the market went a little bit negative and things started falling over a bit. But we did note that BTC held up really well, and the alts actually, and we need to check now in the next few minutes, but the alts actually held their levels relatively nicely as well. So here's the whole breakdown of yesterday as to what went down, and obviously started with the selling of NVIDIA. That was obviously bad news yesterday. We're going to look at that NVIDIA chart as well. And then what we've seen here is they're trying to isolate China now. So US officials are planning to use negotiations with 70 nations to ask them to disallow China to ship goods through their countries. Okay, they're trying to isolate China. Not a good look at the moment, James. You're not enjoying that one. Not the best vibe. And look, it's all happening out there. And in his comments, the S&P was down 1%, but the sell-off was largely contained. But he made it very clear that the Fed is not preparing to intervene. Okay, the Fed pause is here to stay, and the market obviously was not enjoying those comments. But now there is something, according to Quinton Francis. He said the Federal Reserve's reverse repo facility is plummeting, so QE, which is what everybody wants, and money printing will start aggressively when this drains to zero. Okay, now, according to this chart, it's pretty close to zero. So it almost feels like we're a little bit around the corner here. And Jay says, hit the likes or they're going to make us trade dot. Bro, please don't make us trade dot. So we are very close, according to this chart, to some kind of QE. So it's basically hold on to your undies, because it's starting to feel like we are getting closer and closer. Now, this is a bone of contention for Uncle Donald that we've seen today. The European Central Bank cut their interest rates. Okay, so they are starting the process. We know China's doing it. A lot of other countries are getting stuck in as well. And Uncle Donald not happy with this. He says Joe Powell is always too late and wrong, and his termination cannot come fast enough. The Fed should have cut interest rates long time ago. So there's clearly perceived frustration, and you know James's theory that these guys are all buddies, but according to the roles they're playing and the acting is obviously, you know, they're fighting with each other at the moment. Now, I mean, it's okay. We know what needs to happen there with Uncle Donald. Now, what we saw today, and thanks for the comments there in the chat earlier about gold falling over. Tokenized gold just posted its biggest week ever on chain. Okay, PAXG, that's what we've been trading on L-Bank here, trying to catch that short, and things are obviously cooking. There's loads of interest, but the interesting thing for me is there's 24/7 liquidity. I was trading PAXG on the weekend. What a pleasure that we can trade that while the gold market is closed. So it is time for these guys to get a little bit more advanced. But what is interesting here for me again, guys, I'll repeat this again, we've got daily bearish divergence on the gold chart, and this is just the regular RSI that I'm using here. I don't even have to pull out my fancy oscillator just to demonstrate this example. We are getting close for me to some kind of reversal here on gold. And traditionally, if you use gold on the daily and you start hunting divergences and things like that, you see there's typically some kind of sell-off on gold afterwards. Here was a little example in that area over there. You can see we had a little sell-off on gold after we printed some bearish divergence. So in terms of a gold short, it is around the corner. If you want to start some kind of gold position, your risk at the moment to a close above the highs is about 2%. Okay, so it's not the biggest risk position here, but your upside is could be potentially quite good. We can take this thing down about 5% or possibly about 9% on gold. It depends how ugly it gets out there, but obviously with gold we need to trade a lot bigger size. Remember, it's quite a slow mover. It's not your typical shitcoin that is just going to rip. So gold, watching this one closely. I suspect on the next push to the upside we can get a nice tight entry on this thing, and we can start really getting stuck into another effort or another attempt here on PAXG. So looking for the next little pump, and then we're going to try and reverse this puppy and send it down. Now, let's talk S&P, and I'd say relatively flat today. I was expecting actually a little bit more downside, but it's holding out, seems to be okay at the moment. And remember, when we had that pump, there were stats and things around saying, look, you can chop sideways for a week or two after a massive pump like that while the market decides in what direction it's going to go. So in terms of that theory, this is still fine. This is still in play at the moment, a bit of sideways chop for us. Now, this scared the shit out of me. And NVIDIA, look at this. We have seen countless versions of this NVIDIA chart, but this one is quite intriguing, says Michael wrote. He says NVIDIA versus Cisco. Now, Cisco collapsed big time. I think it was early 2000s. Cisco fell over, and NVIDIA is starting to look like the Cisco bubble at the moment. And with all this news coming out of China, they can't sell their chips, and obviously DeepSeek coming into play with cheaper chips and things like that, it is obviously putting pressure on NVIDIA. So what do we look for in these types of things? Again, if you're a long-term investor, that's a different story. But in terms of where can we catch bounces, where can we get some action on this NVIDIA, I think the two big zones are clear, and it's just a matter of being patient. I think we're going to get beautiful reversals when we come into these zones. So just a reminder, I did touch on this yesterday. Your NVIDIA longs, guys, 94 to about 88 makes sense to me. And then our next zone is going to be that 78 region. Again, that doesn't have to be the bottom. That could just be a short-term bounce that we can take advantage of and get something maybe along those lines while they try and send NVIDIA back to hell, potentially. Okay. And Airdrop Hunter, yes, what an absolute banger. We're going to cover GMX today. And it's quite interesting because I read some bullish things on GMX earlier today, and I was saying to some of the guys, like, geez, you know, is this thing actually going to fall over now or not? And then out of nowhere, it collapsed, and that was a proper banger there for us on GMX. So we're going to cover that one shortly. Okay, let's go. Google, another interesting stock, but now a judge has found that Google holds illegal monopolies in online advertising tech. Okay, so that could be quite bearish for Google's share price, but it actually hasn't done too much. It seems to be relatively flat at the moment. And in terms of our bounce zone for Google, this 145 for me is still the area where we are looking for longs. You can see I do have a reversal print here on the weekly. And the last time we printed this reversal print here in that region, we did see a nice pump on Google. So I would expect we are going to get some kind of sustained bounce at some point here on some of these tech stocks. And for me, Google 146 down to 142, guys, makes sense to me. If they really put pressure on us, 130 is going to be the next one. But these are the zones that I'm typically looking for some action. And Matty's saying, yeah, Google's news priced in, I concur. And let's see if we can get a bounce off those levels here on the next set of weakness. There is still this possibility that we get to play out this full right shoulder. And then we can maybe even catch the short later on. Okay. And FTW says it's a good time to buy. I'm assuming he's talking about NVIDIA or Google at the moment. Okay. So, guys, that is that in terms of that. Now, let's talk. Mustafa, what's up, bro? Let's talk Bitcoin on the daily. So you can see this is my bearish game plan on any pumps, and I've spoken about this a lot this week. Okay, so we have covered this many times. If this is your first time seeing it, well, buckle up. So basically, what we're looking at here is a descending trend on the daily. You can see beautiful descending trend here on the daily for gold. Now we are putting pressure on the trend. What does this mean? Well, if we break this trend, you could see a whole lot of retail coming out trying to long this trend. But this could be the real trap here from the market makers where they can pump it into the zone. This is our big resistance zone. And what I'm looking for is a fake out into that area and then a nice big rejection there on BTC. So that is what I'm planning for at the moment. That is why I'm being very careful with this hedging. I'm looking for shorts at all times when we're pumping, obviously looking for longs of good supports, but being super careful here because I'm expecting some kind of trickery like that at some point. And just a reminder, here's our 1 week liquidation heat map. And we can look at the 1 month liquidations as well. And you can take a look. Let's see how big this one is. Look at this band here. 88 to 90K, an absolute cracker up there. If you were a market maker and you could smell that, look at that. It's beautiful. And that is why I'm leaning to a pump to the upside before they come and send us a little bit lower. So still looking for this hunt to the upside there on BTC. Okay, guys, it's altcoin time. And James, are we getting rinsed on that trade yet? Is it moving? What are we doing, sir? Nothing yet. Okay, nothing yet. So, guys, it's altcoin time. Okay, we've got a lot of entries yesterday. Hopefully, some of you guys got them. Hopefully, they're still holding. I obviously haven't looked at the charts now in the last 30-odd minutes. We're going to see if they're holding out. And I'm going to cover some short options for you as well. So, if we get a little pump now, you want to make sure you have some hedge zones where you can catch a couple of shorts there on this one. Okay. This is what we are looking at. Firstly, Dupes is talking about massive ETH inflow alert. 77,000 ETH just hit derivative exchanges, biggest spike in month. Now, that is pretty bearish, okay? You hear 77,000 ETH getting sent to exchanges. It typically means that they're probably looking to sell the token. And I loved what Dupe said at the bottom here. He says, now with China clapping back on trade and markets, is ETH gearing up for another dump? And I'm so glad he said that because this is finally tied in to my meme that I've been just waiting for somebody to talk about an ETH dump. And here we are at the moment. And maybe we're going to get our 1380 again out of ETH. So let's look at it very briefly, very quickly, guys. You can see this is ETH on the 3-day. Reminder, we do have bullish divergence printing here on the 3-day. Okay, so that is telling us there's a chance it actually wants to grind higher. That doesn't make me an ETH bull. That makes me an ETH shorter. Okay, so what we want to look for is 1745, 1,900. Those are the extreme upside levels for me. With the 77,000 ETH on an exchange potentially selling, there's going to be a lot of pressure there. So I'm not expecting anything more than something like that. And then in terms of downside support, no changes this week. Look at our candle. We're still holding above 1560 and 1470. Those are the big zones that you want to be watching there for ETH, especially if you are short-term trading this thing. And then the big level down here, guys, 1380. Okay, right in play there with our dog over there, getting involved there with ETH. Okay, guys, let's go. Sol. No changes to the weekly plan. We can remain short-term bullish and longer-term bearish on Sol as long as we are under all these levels. So 147, 160, 170 to 180. Any one of these could be the zone where we print the lower high and then we bang it down. Okay, so I am looking for that to play out eventually on Sol, barring some kind of extreme shift in the macro situation, maybe some QE, maybe a few little sprinkles of other things out of the politicians. But until until then, guys, that's my plan on Sol. Okay, so looking for that on the big picture. Downside target is anything from 70 to this 80 region. Anywhere in that zone for me is making sense for me on Sol. So no changes to the bigger picture story. Let's talk degen things. Let's talk, lower time frames. And you can see here, this is the 8-hour that I'm watching, and looking for a divergence print now, a bearish divergence print. Now, why am I looking for that? So what typically happens is when you're getting a short entry and things like that, you want to try and see your oscillator printing a lower high, and you want to see your price printing a higher high. That kind of gives you an indication that this thing could potentially want to roll over. So for me, there's two resistance zones here for Solana. Number one, 136. You can see this area. It's a nice band here in the way. So 136 is a possible short zone here on Sol. Then a little bit higher up, we've got 147 to 150. That is our next danger zone there for Sol. So I've marked it here for the hackers. I said danger, rejection zones in this area. The ideal situation when you get an 8-hour starting to print divergence, then you know you could be teeing up for a really nice move to the downside. So we want to see this price start pushing higher, bang, okay, the oscillator pushing lower, and then that should give us some kind of consolidation up there, and then maybe a roll over there on Solana. So that is my current game plan in terms of a short idea for Sol traders. Obviously, anybody who wants to be long on Sol, there's a couple of options. Look, down here is the most obvious to me anywhere. In fact, look, if we do start losing levels on Sol, you're going to see there's a lot going on. But one of the big zones for me is down here, 115, 114 for Sol. Could be an absolute banger. Alternatively, if you are looking for a short-term move, you can see Sol is at a resistance band. Let's just highlight this for you here. And if there is a possible breakout, you can play the breakout. Remember, you want to see this candle print higher. You want to see it push into possibly that VWAP at 140 and reject. And then you're going to make sure the bulls are stepping in at this region, 133, and that is where you're going to take it a little bit higher up. So let it break out first if you're looking for longs. Then you want to make sure you can use 133 as support and keep it so simple, guys. You can see a rising trend here. If you start losing and closing under this trend, it starts turning bearish and they send you back to hell. Okay, so play that game there on Sol. Guys, remember, all these charts go straight into Chart Hackers directly after the show. They will be sitting there for you guys, and you do what you need to do with them. And obviously, during the day in Chart Hackers, I update loads of things as well, including market updates. So you'll find that all over there for you guys. Okay, so rejection zone here for Sol. Careful with longs until it breaks through to the upside. You know what to do there. Then let's talk S. This was from yesterday. Now, this thing's hardly actually moved. It's been pretty frustrating for me. Let's see where we are. And in terms of changes, no changes. So what I was saying yesterday was some kind of consolidation in this area and then a pop. Okay, and when you get that pop, you can typically start adding to your size of your position. At the moment, all we've done is dance around this 45, 46 region. And, it's a good area to maybe accumulate if you're trying to build a position. But in terms of what I was looking for earlier, we had our bullish divergence print, but this is now not played out as well as we wanted it to at the moment. So we need to just be watchful on this S. I'm still in the S position here. I'm trading it on LBank. You can see our 4-hour is flipping a little bit bullish here. But if this doesn't work out for us, what I want you guys to have is your backup zones, your backup levels, and just understand, how you can potentially plan or play this thing. So what could typically happen here is if there is more weakness in the market, you want to just identify your next wick zones or your next areas where you could get a little tap. Now, in terms of a full reversal, you might only find that full reversal down here at this 39 to 38 region if this zone doesn't hold. But you could see something like that, a little wick into that 618 and then some kind of pump. And then obviously over there, we can decide what happens next with that. So if you do drop into that 618, there is a possibility that you're going to get about a 10% trade out of S. Okay, so that is on the table at 0.44. Watch that as your next backup zone, 0.44. Obviously, what you want to do is make sure this is tying in with some degree of reversal on your oscillator. You want to see, some kind of divergence, and it looks like we will print divergence here. So if S prints a new low, we should print a higher low on that oscillator, and that could give us a little bit more energy on a possible long there on S. So if this region fails, 44, guys, that is where the next potential area is for me. Okay, let's talk some action here. Old Bank. I've had quite an interesting day. You know, the GMX played out quite nicely. I ended up taking out my GMX stop, and instead of having a stop, I actually opened up a long to complement the short to hedge the play. Then I rode that whole thing. I had a limit order on GMX a little bit higher up, nailed that limit order for the short, and then sent that one lower. So that it turned out as a good trade in the end, but it did put me under a bit of pressure. So you can see I'm still hedging tons here in this account. What do I have at the moment? Let's see what's going on here. I've got a render short that is a little bit red. I've got an AVAX short, $44,000. That is nice and green. Now, this is a great short zone for AVAX. I'm going to show you this region, why it makes sense to me, a nice hedge play. Tau, I've been building this long now to complement my short. So the long that I've been giving you on the show for the last couple of days, that thing is getting a little bit of energy. So I've been building the size on that one. There's the S position from yesterday. Brett, a little bounce long. J.S.M.E. is still short. That thing is doing okay. 3,600. I've got the J.S.M.E. chart for you guys. That is printing nicely. 𝗬𝗰, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with 𝗬𝗰 and might need to make some plans here. I'm 73,000 long at the moment, and it's not doing much. Okay, so it's negative 2K. Sol looking good, 50K long. I'm 27 head short on Sol, right at resistance, at that resistance band you guys have just seen. So if it falls over, I've got the short cover there on Sol. Then Render, look at this. It's cooking almost $10,000 up now for Render. That's a banger. And then BTC short from 2 weeks ago. No changes, no reason to exit the short. And that's my cover down to 51K if we do get it on BTC. Now, remember, guys, you can trade with me in the Old Bank competition, and it's for my community only. So if you sign up to my link and you're trading this comp, your first prize gets $3,000. Fifth prize gets $1,000, and all it takes is $100 to enter the competition. Now, I told you guys yesterday, I'm waiting. I'm giving you more time. Okay, we need to fix these rookie numbers here, and we need to pump these numbers up. Okay, so I know some of the other guys are starting to get involved in Old Bank, so you're going to see some of these percentages start going up now. And I know the hackers crew are getting stuck in, and then I'm going to come hard for you guys, like promised. In a couple of days here, we're going to load it up, and I'm going to come and start hunting the winners. Okay, so get stuck in there. And right, let's talk 𝗬𝗰. So in terms of yesterday's entry, 0 changes. Okay, you can see we are still in the zone. It looks exactly like S. There's no changes to the 𝗬𝗰 plan here at all. And the lows for me, candle close under 205. And you can even use these wicks from yesterday. And let's take a look at this one. I mean, that Powell speech was pretty wild, what it did to the markets. But 2.03, close under 2.03, or close under 2.05 make the most sense to me there on 𝗬𝗰 if that is going to fail. And then it's pretty much the same trade as S. Look at that. We've got a 618 waiting a little bit lower down. They actually look identical. So pick your favorites. And if you do get that wick onto that 618, one of those should give you a reaction, S or 𝗬𝗰. I wouldn't trade both, but it's on the table. And if you do, maybe just trade smaller size on the one. Don't ape on both of them. Okay, so 𝗬𝗰, guys, no changes. What are upside targets? The big one, if it's possible, 2.4. I'm not holding my breath. But in terms of other levels here, let's keep it super simple. Let's just give you some 𝗬𝗰 upside targets if it does move. 2.17, 2.23, 2.26, 2.33. Those are the upside targets there for 𝗬𝗰. And just be careful here. It's at the upper band of the entry zone. Remember, this entry zone, you've had multiple opportunities here at the lows at about 2.06, 2.07. Try and get it on weakness if possible. Alternatively, it might break this trend now and start running. Just play safe, okay? So your risk, you probably, if you're entering here, it's 3.3%. Okay, it's a little bit high. Okay, so just be safe here in terms of 𝗬𝗰. Maybe just wait for a little bit more downside. Now, it's like a predator hunting humans. What is Adam talking about? What is he talking about here?
I don't know. It was Powell and the up and down yesterday. That's what was going on in the chat there for a bit.
Okay, who else is here in the chat? Let's see. I see JR's here. Hello, bro. What's going on? JR's one of our. I think he's an OG member. JR, how long have you been there, bro? He's been there a long time. That guy's cleaning up in chart hackers. Gerald's looking at Link. Gerald, we got a beautiful Link entry this week off the zone. So there's no actual changes on Link at the moment. If you got that entry in the last couple of days, you are good. You are cooking. And let's see who else is here. And 𝗪𝗪, I haven't seen this name in a while. So he says super show with Super Dylan. Nice to have you here. Syed is here. Dylan is OM bottom yet. Syed, I haven't looked at that guy just yet.
and I haven't looked at that in a couple of days. Let's see. Says, Powell is done, and he probably is, but he's around till 2026 apparently, unless they can remove him. And Dan is in the house as well. He says make it green. And Tindo, the African DJ, hello sir, always good to have you as well. And he says juicy entry.
Juicy, extremely juicy.
I concur. Okay, let's go. So look, we nailed a couple of entries yesterday. This GMX was a sweater, guys. It was a sweater. At one point I thought, fuck, they're going to actually pump this thing another 10-20% and rinse me. So I'll tell you about my strategy, but I saw this today. Okay, so 50%, he says not 50% this week, 124. They're offering 124% APR at the moment. Now, this is for staking. Remember, we've been talking this week about GMX offering staking, and they were paying out fees to whoever was staking it from their liquidations. Remember, they're in the trading exchange. So they're now offering 124% for people to stake GMX. In theory, that's quite bullish. But in past experiences doing this stuff, the more people find out that 124% goes down super fast and it ends up at like 10%, and then you're at risk. So I'm not a massive fan of stuff like this, but, so be it. People like that type of thing. But in terms of GMX, and Jason, is he long or he's short? Is he long or he's short on Tau? Why is he complaining? Okay, so in terms of GMX, guys, it was slowly, and then all of a sudden this thing fell over. Remember, up the stairs and down the escalator with these shorts. It's an absolute cracker. And sometimes you got to sit in these shorts and be patient. You got to manage your trades. You got to do these things. And like Hype yesterday, eventually Hype just absolutely squeezed me out. I couldn't take it any longer, and I'm out of that Hype. But the GMX guys hung on to this thing and finally started falling over. Rahim, you got it, bro. Banger. Okay, well done, sir. And what we did, remember, the signs were there. The signs were all there for us. We had the divergence printing. I was saying last night, if we get another print, we're going to get double divergence printing. When you see double divergence, you dial down the margin. When you see double divergence on an 8-hour, guys, you dial down that margin, you give yourself breathing room, you slowly start adding. When it pumps higher, you add a little bit, you go nibble, slowly, and then bang, that escalator comes down and these things fall over. So absolute banger. Just remember the trick here, guys. If you're going too degen on these things, you can get yourself in a twist. Okay, you got to do it slowly. You got to give yourself breathing room. So last night, what did I do? What was my strategy? So I was sitting in this thing, and at the time, I think I was $20,000 or $22,000 short on this thing, and I wanted to sleep well. And my options were have a hard stop, and if this pumps, bank some kind of loss, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 loss on this thing, or alternatively, bang out a hedge long in case it starts ripping. So if I wake up in the morning, okay, my long could potentially be green, my short will be red, but at least I'll have cover knowing that I've got so much divergence playing out on this thing. It's just a matter of time until this falls over. So with that in mind, I went long 10,000. Then this thing pumps up, okay? Obviously, in the zone, I've got another limit order sitting. It was somewhere there, okay? 16.4, somewhere in that area. I had another sell limit order waiting. It grabbed that order. Then suddenly the short was, say, $30,000 in size. Then that started falling over. Then what does it do? It puts your long under pressure. Your long goes red, but you long 10,000 and you short 30. When it collapses like that, bang, okay, then you've done it and your divergence is played out and you've just managed your trade a little bit there. So I do that on a cross account in LBank. Obviously, it takes a bit of time to learn how to do these things. You need to be patient. You're going to start small when you're figuring this stuff out. But you can see I've always got longs and shorts. And yeah, it takes time. And it's not as fast as if you only long or only short, because remember, you hedging yourself. So if somebody is only long and the market rips with them, they're going to make whatever 50%. You on a hedge might make 20 or 30%, but remember, you've got downside rinse protection there, and if it does roll over, you are obviously covered there to a degree, because it's going to print you money to the downside. Okay, so there we go. GMX, I'm done. We out of this one. We reassess later on. It's probably going to be a long at some point, but you can see there's massive divergence here. Let this thing do what it needs to do. We'll deal with it when it's at the bottom, but I'd say that was an absolute banger. And always remember B. Canton. Always remember B. Canton. Hello.
the oscillator you could learn about in my trading accelerator. Now, the good news is, guys, I've got a trading school, and you're going to learn very simple TA tied in with the oscillators, all these cool things that I use. You're going to learn this stuff in under 10 days. You're going to be trading. You're going to be doing charting that you never thought you could do. And you're going to be taking leverage trades with me in no time. So my workshop is on Monday. And that is for the next cohort. So make sure you come and join me on Monday in my workshop. And I'm going to cover a lot of the stuff. You're going to do it live with me and really see this stuff happen in action. So make sure you are signed up for the Trading Accelerator. The link is in here in the show description. This is where you'll find all the stuff that I talk about, including chart hackers, which is sitting here at the top for you guys. Okay, so just look around. You'll see it here. The Accelerator School is sitting here for you guys. And there it is, second from the top. Okay, so sign up there, and I'll see you at my workshop on Monday for a little bit of action. Okay, let's go. 𝗏, interesting one. Okay, so this was one that I took on hackers earlier today, and I told the guys I was just going to keep them posted along the way. So if I add to the trade, I'm going to tell them I'm adding to the trade. If I'm playing with my leverage, I'm going to tell them exactly what I'm doing step by step. So far, we've got the entry, and I've added 15% to my 𝗏 position, and it was a bit of a degen play. Obviously, into the US Open, I was expecting a little bit of action out of the market. So in terms of where we are now, we do have some kind of trend break. We got to see if this is going to hold. But in terms of 𝗏, if you want to nibble around here, let's see your risk. Your risk is about 2% at the moment if you want to play in this. Now, this is a degen play. Remember, some of our best entries come at the lows when we're trading things like these guys here on these support zones. We nibble, then we play the trend break. Remember, if we're playing this trend break now, we're actually behind. There's a lot of guys with entries down here. And, they're taking advantage of now. They can take profit or they can add to their trades and those things. So if you're playing the trend break, you're a little bit behind the curve, but you can still play this momentum quite nicely. So 𝗏, if you want to try this thing, 16 down to 157 makes sense for me as an entry zone. Look for a little bit of chop in this area potentially, and then some kind of push higher, and then keep it simple, guys. Don't hang on too long on these breakout plays, because remember, the real lows are always the main supports that you're going to be watching. And if you're playing the breakout, then you normally put yourself into quite big exposure to the lows. So if you're really going to leave this one to go to the lows, what is your risk? Your risk is 4%. Is your trading account going to enjoy that? So for me, I would say under 157, cut this thing, and no need to hang around under 0.157. So this is 𝗏, and I'm trading this one on 𝗏𝗆 at the moment as well. So you can see I've got 𝗏 and I've got party that we just took now at the start of the show. And I mean, this feels like an absolute shitcoin, this thing. And 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 is telling us Trump is speaking. Is this correct?
He's always speaking. I mean, I'm sure it is. The guy likes to talk.
Fuck me.
Right?
Okay,
Is there anything we get without some sort of news headline that comes out to screw our entries?
Okay,
Man.
Trump is speaking. Be prepared. Prepare your undies, up or down. Just be prepared. Okay, make sure you have a spare set of undies there if he is
And
speaking.
be hedged
Okay,
24/7.
Fuck,
Always be
okay.
hedged.
Just have your spare set of undies, guys, and be hedged. Correct. Be hedged. Okay. Nothing wrong with a hedge play. Okay. So there you go. That is 𝗏. So this is what I was doing in Chart Hackers earlier today in my channel. And I've got a few channels here. I've got daily market updates where I drop what's happening in the market for me. I drop Bitcoin updates. And then I've got trade setups. You can find a lot of the stuff here. A lot of my charts, a lot of the trades I take during the day are all here. That 𝗏𝗏𝗏 chart that I used for the short was here as well. Okay. So possible short scalp zone here. And you can see there's reversals on the oscillator. So you can follow my channel here in Chart Hackers. And this is where I was talking about the 𝗏 setup. So we dropped that earlier, just telling the guys how we go about it and what we're going to be doing. So right now, no changes, no add-ons to that 𝗏 trade other than what we have done already. We're going to let that one play out. Ooh! This thing, okay, this is great. Okay, so I dropped this here in Hackers earlier as well. I said yesterday I spoke about nibbling small amounts on supports on these altcoins, okay, adding on breakouts. I've now added to the 𝗏𝗏 long, okay, the average entry was 230, relatively low risk. So when you see these types of setups, what you can do is, okay, what you do is you nibble at the lows, okay, this is my game. You nibble at the lows. Get your little entries there, nibble. When you break the trend, you are ahead of the curve. you can add your size, you can increase the power of that trade. You can then trade that thing higher up. Once you are ahead of the game, your risk is obviously lower. So my average entry is about 230, I think. Let's see where we are here. 230.8 is the average entry here on this tower. Now it's starting to go nice and green. We can see 𝗬𝗰 also starting to do a couple of things. So this thing could be a pumper soon as well, potentially, if Uncle Donald doesn't ruin it for us. Oh, did he say? Okay, Trump says a deal with China is coming.
Just checking here, and yeah, he's bull posting a bit about that. Trade deals are coming, this, that. We're not in a rush, but there's lots of progress, this, that. And he's also saying that he really wants to get rid of Powell. Bessent is telling him
he's not going
down
to.
on the Powell. No.
Yeah. He's not going to. Okay. He's not going to get rid of Powell. Powell's here till 2026. Okay. He's here till 2026 unless the Supreme Court grants the president of the US some kind of weird power to basically evict the Fed man. Okay. I can't see that happening. Okay. So I think he's here to stay. Okay. So short term, this tells me the market's reacting on short-term bullish news, so I wouldn't buy into it that much unless it's major stuff. If somebody says, we're negotiating with China or there's a deal around the corner, I don't know. He's also trying to buy some time here. And look, James, if you see anything coming in, keep me posted. Yeah. Okay. So Taro, guys, that's the deal. We've broken a trend now. If you are sitting in Taro, if you're looking for, where this thing can go, well, 255, that makes sense to me. Possible short there, 255. Alternatively, it's 280 as potential short zones here. Now, let's look at the 4 hour. The 4 hour is reversing quite sharply to the upside, but it will be time before we can start looking for major shorts. So you want to see, divergences and things play out at resistance. So I think give it a little bit of time before we get to, some big short zones there. So 255 and 280. Why are we talking about Epstein here? Why are we talking about Epstein? What's going on? What's going on here? Okay. Okay, party, guys. Here's this party thing. I have no idea what the fuck this is. All I saw earlier was this on the 4 hour. Okay, look at this thing on the 4 hour. Look at this oscillator. Reversal print, bullish divergence, double reversals, blue dot, potentially bullish. Okay, so that's why that was interesting to me. If it could be an absolute shitcoin, guys. Just understand the risk here. If this thing pumps, you probably get a nice move. Okay, you probably get a 10, 15, 28% move on this thing if it does start ripping. Okay, so there we go. You can see I took a tiny position on this thing. It's $4,000, and the stop is zero. Where was our stop? 0.1441 is our current stop loss, and that was thanks to Trader J in the chats. Okay, let's go. Let's talk possible short options here for you guys. So this could actually come into play today really nicely. So you can see I'm sitting in this AVAX short already, and I like to hedge. So when I see great areas for a potential short, you can nibble at those zones. When you pump into these big areas, you take a look in those zones, especially if you are relatively long on the market. So what I've got here is a bearish trend retest here for AVAX, and anything for me, even into 20.5 is pretty bearish. Even into 20.9 is pretty bearish for me on AVAX. So we got to watch this 2 hour oscillator. Let's see how we go here. We know earlier today on the 1 hour and the 45, this thing was looking like it wanted to reverse a touch. And let's just see where we are here. There we go. So if we do get a second push now on this oscillator, you might find it prints a lower high. Maybe AVAX prints a higher high in that zone, and that just gives us more reason to look for a potential short play there on AVAX. So AVAX, guys, look out from 19.5, 20.2, and 20.8. Those are the nice short zones there for me on AVAX. And yeah, I'm sitting nicely. If it pumps harder, we're now in a comfortable position. If this thing pumps harder, we can add to the short. We can start growing the size for protection. And as the longs start pumping into resistance zones, you start clipping the profits of the longs and you start leaning into shorts, and then you balance your account, and the next thing you are net short, and then hopefully things start rolling over and you just play that game up and down. Okay, cool. So that is AVAX. Let's see what else we got here. Popcat, it's following the game plan from yesterday, so no changes, guys. Hopefully you guys listen to the magic drawings. Okay, so remember the magic drawings, we give the path of where we want these things to go, and we got a little bit of a rejection there. Let's call it a 618 rejection. Now for me on Popcat, I don't have a fresh trade for you here. 22.5, and 205. Those are the big ones for me. 22.5, 205. That makes the most sense for me on PopCat, guys. Just be patient on that one. And then 𝗏𝗲. So yeah, sitting short. I'm pretty close to actually exiting this short. So anybody who's still sitting in 𝗏𝗲, this was courtesy of DJ Dave on Friday. So we've been sitting in this 𝗏𝗲 short for 6 days, guys. This is how long these things take to play out. Okay, so sometimes they're not instant, but when they play out, they play out. Remember, up the stairs, down the escalator is pretty much the way we like it. And levels for me, 𝗏𝗲, your next long is going to be at 1.3 or it's going to be at 1.12. Those are your next longs there for 𝗏𝗲. I'm pretty much done here with the short. I think it's time to exit this thing. We're going to bank those profits. It was a nice move to the downside. We can look for fresh shorts at new resistance zones. So we're going to bank that handbag there. And then, guys, render. I'm getting a bit edgy with this render. You can see it's one of my biggest positions now, or biggest in profit positions on LBank at the moment. And we are now pushing into some danger zones here. So I'm getting a little bit edgy. You can see 4.15 render, danger zone. And I've got another big one here at 4.48. These are your, call it TP zones, danger zones. I'm a little bit cautious up here. I suspect, we might get some kind of reversal. Look at this 8 hour. If we do pop higher on render, all it's going to do is confirm bearish divergence for us. And we're probably going to get some kind of short. So guys, look out here. Possible short coming on render into 4.1, 4.2 and into 4.5, 4.6. These are your possible short zones if we move into that by tomorrow. And I'm going to keep you guys posted as to when and where we can react on this thing. Okay, so right now at resistance and a little bit higher, you can play those games. Okay, Mung Pai, there you go, sir. Handbag is banked for Adam. Adam, were you still short on that 𝗏𝗲 there, bro? Let me know. And Umar says bull music.
Treat the
No,
like.
not that one. That one. Okay, guys, there we go. That's the party. You've got longs, you've got shorts, okay? You've got Trump doing things. Now, maybe up, maybe down. Prepare your undies. Make sure you are going the right way. And or if not, make sure you are hedged. Okay, so all these charts going to Chart Hackers, guys. Tomorrow, I'm going to be giving you a nice update, some weekend setups for you tomorrow. So make sure you are tuned in tomorrow. You can have a full weekend plan from me, okay? Guys, good luck. Catch you later.